Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek, and welcome to day 24 of my 31 Days of Halloween Reviews. Today we return to a traditional character and storyline. This is a real classic, so I'm always excited about this line. DC Comics Presents was the Superman Team-Up series. Just like Batman had The Brave and the Bold, where each issue featured a team-up story of him and another hero or character from DC's large universe, DC Comics Presents was Superman. So he would team up with other heroes like Batgirl or Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and such. But he also teamed up with just about anybody that DC could get the rights to. There's a great classic team up between him and He-Man, which I love. It's one of my favorites. And there's a Christmas issue with him and teaming up with Santa Claus. So it's just a really fun series. I'm really sad that it's not around anymore. But it was predominantly in the Bronze Age. I don't think it was really outside the Bronze Age, actually. But each issue would feature just a standalone story. So no continuing story arcs or anything like that for the most part. And the issue today I have is number 53, which is a Halloween issue. It's Superman in the House of Mystery. Now, we did a video, I covered the House of Mystery Vertigo annual Halloween special a little ways back, and that is not exactly the same thing. I mean, it is, but the House of Mystery is actually a really old character in DC Comics. In 1951, I think it was first introduced, and at first it was basically a horror anthology type of series. So the House of Mystery itself collects all of the more gruesome and scary stories, and the house is sentient, and the house just sort of collects these stories, and its caretaker is Cain, who is like the murderous Cain from the Cain and Abel stories from Genesis. So that's the story behind that. Of course, once the house turned up in Vertigo, and then especially Neil Gaiman really started to develop it, and Bill Willingham and different people who were writing for Vertigo really developed the idea of the House of Mysteries elsewhere. But it started to take place within the realm of the dreaming, and then also it shared like dual planes in our world and the other or whatever. But at this point, it's still just that basic kind of classic House of Mystery. So in this issue, we have great cover there. I just love that cover. It's so brilliant. There's Cain at the bottom and Superman zooming around the House of Mystery. And all these monsters reaching out of the windows you find in the story, they're actually children who are there at the House of Mystery hearing Cain tell ghost stories. And Mr. Mxyzptlk comes along and turns all of the children into whatever monsters that they've dressed up as. So a lot of fun there. I always love that whenever that pops up in Halloween stories. Such a fun tool. We covered that in the Buffy video earlier this month as well. Dan Mishkin is the writer, and pencils by the great Kurt Swan. Tony DeZuniga, if I'm pronouncing it right. I've seen his name a lot, but I just rarely had to say it out loud. Is the inker. And I mean, Kurt Swan's obviously a classic Superman artist. I mean, he's one of those huge names. He's like a name like Jack Kirby. You're not allowed to say anything bad about him. But that doesn't mean that I think everything he does is brilliant. Sometimes his Superman can look a little too middle-aged for my taste, a little too balding or whatever. I don't know why. I guess that was just the look of adults back then or something. I don't know. Or what was commonly accepted. But the thing about Kurt Swan is he commonly does just pencils, and other people ink his work, and the inker here really makes Superman look a little more modern, so you don't get that old kind of Silver Age balding look to Superman. So because Kurt Swan's wonderful otherwise, that's just one little thing I had an issue with. Sometimes I would have an issue in his old Silver Age stuff with the body poses that he would have Superman, kind of awkward foreshortening and stuff like that. But I mean, even the greats get better with time, so I can see. I mean, you can see here, that's Clark Kent dressed up as Green Lantern for a Halloween party. So that's just some of the great stuff you get in this issue. And you can see, the body images and stuff like, or angles and everything, and contortions are much better. So really love the art in this issue. Definitely saying nothing but positive things about it is what I'm trying to do. So much fun. A lot of little touches. Like this is a Halloween costume party at Lois Lane's where everybody has to dress up as a famous person, and whatever the curse or trick Mr. Mxyzptlk is playing makes certain people turn into their costumes. So the young boy at the beginning turns into Superman and then crashes Lois Lane's party, wanting to take Lois Lane away. Well, Clark Kent's there, dressed up as Green Lantern. He obviously knows that's not the real Superman. Jimmy Olsen is dressed as Thor, obviously not the Marvel Thor, but the actual Thor from mythology, and turns into Thor for a second, I guess maybe to kind of distract Clark or whatever. But the basic challenge for Superman that Mr. Mxyzptlk poses is that he has to find Lois within the House of Mystery before the stroke of midnight, or else she's lost forever. Now, Superman doesn't know it's Mr. Mxyzptlk behind the whole scheme yet. And I thought this was cool. I don't want to spoil it, so I really highly recommend this issue for some Halloween fun for any Superman fan. It's just a must-have. And right now it's on Comixology for $1.99, so you can read it digitally on your smartphone, Kindle, tablet, whatever, computer even, in a matter of moments, just for $2. So, and I haven't really tried to hunt down the hard copy yet. I'd like to do that, though, because it was a fun issue. So I don't know how much that would be or how hard it would be to find. So I don't want to spoil the big end, but I like that they really do have that classic relationship between Superman and Mr. Mxyzptlk. Sometimes they portray Mr. Mxyzptlk as just too much of a evil supervillain. And that's one thing I enjoyed about the Superman Rebirth recently when Mixie, let me just say Mixie so I don't have to keep saying the name over and over again. When Mixie comes back into Rebirth, they call attention to the fact that he's never been malicious. He's always just been a prankster, a very annoying prankster, and, doing some horrible things. He needs to be stopped by all means, but not someone who's looking to hurt people, necessarily. So love that aspect, and that's very much in place here. I highly recommend the issue. I don't want to say too much more to give away anything at the end, but you've got all these characters in there. You've got Mixie, you've got Kane, you've got Superman. And for those who don't know, of course, Superman is susceptible to magic. So, Mr. Mxyzptlk coming from the different dimension, Superman's susceptible to his powers and his pranks and everything like that. So, certainly everything within the House of Mystery, he'd be susceptible to as well. So he's got some real challenges ahead of him. And even though it's just a little fun story, there's some really great little explorations of his character, even within this little concise, fun Halloween story. For example, there's a room within the House of Mystery that that Kane describes as this is the room of secret fears. There's a psychodrama playing in Superman's head where the things he dreads most are coming true. And I love that the editor defined psychodrama for anybody who wouldn't know in the bottom. Julie Schwartz says a form of therapy in which one improvises situations related to a personal problem. So that's as good of a definition as any, but role playing basically, something like that. So yeah, what goes on and what's Superman's biggest fear basically? And I think that's really telling. I like the way they played that out and what's going on in that room in his mind and everything. So great little touches like that. There is a great joke at the end, which I'll just have to, let me just go ahead and spoil. Sorry. But at the very end, I'm just going to show this one panel here. At the very end, Lois comes out from where she's been kept, and she says, "Thank goodness you got here. Mr. M had me locked in a room with comic book artists, chained to their drawing boards. They wanted me to free them, but I couldn't take the responsibility for letting them loose on the world." So, some sort of like a little, dig by the writer, I'm assuming, at the comic book artist, or either a self-deprecating joke by the artist, themselves. So the end of the issue has a little brief story from Atari Force, if you remember that. Kept trying to be picked up and never really got any traction, but fun sci-fi if you're into that. So definitely recommend this one, and we'll be back tomorrow with some more. We still have plenty of days left this month for great stories that are Halloween related, crossed with superhero and or comic book related. So take a look at this playlist if you haven't yet already. If you're coming in to this month late, we've covered a lot of great stories so far, and just some great recommendations, great ways for you to celebrate the holiday, celebrate Halloween all month long, but in the vein of your geeky fandom. So there's that. Don't forget our giveaway. Show up the image there one more time of the Batman Nevermore issue 1 I'm giving away. That's the Batman Edgar Allan Poe team up. And I just need my subscription list to reach 250. And we're pretty close. We've got, 10 or 12, something like that left to go. So, share the video around. As soon as it gets to 250, I'm just going to go through, and everybody who's commented on one of the videos from this month will go into a drawing, and I'll pick a name and they'll be shipped this comic book. And I'll try and come up with some consolation prizes too. So second and third place will get something as well. Come back tomorrow at 6 for another great story, and until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero and Halloween stories you love best. Thanks for watching.